here. Been through hell and back. I'm here. I'm stronger than I know I'm gonna be fine. I'm here.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Golden's Guide to Divorce. We're here at the beautiful Pronk Studios, and I have a special guest with me today. I cannot wait for you to meet her. She is a divorce attorney. She's a published author. She's the founder of the family law group Bauer Law Firm, and she even has her own podcast, and it's called Happy Even After, which I love that name. She also has a course about divorce, and she does speaking all over, and she is just a wealth of information when it comes to divorce and supporting women, and I'm just so glad to have her here. So with that, welcome, Renée Bauer.
Oh, thank you so much for having me here. I'm so excited to chat with you.
Yes, I'm just honored because as I have been going through the journey myself, as you know, I started the podcast just probably weeks after, the news of the divorce. This has been quite a journey for me. So it sounds like, as I was sharing with you earlier, I mean, you really are kind of the total package when it comes to knowing about divorce and supporting women, since you are an attorney as well. So now, also, I wanted to ask you, have you been divorced as well?
Oh, not just once, but twice.
Oh, twice.
Yes.
Okay. So then you actually do have a lot of experience on that.
Oh, I'm sorry. There was a cutout time. It stopped. I missed the question.
I was just saying, well, then that even adds to your expertise, the fact that that you've been through that. And which really kind of led me to the first question. You are so passionate about your work, and it goes into so many different avenues. And so I was just wondering, what gives you the passion to really do this work?
Yeah, so it's my own personal story that is where the passion came from. So I've been a divorce lawyer for almost 2 decades now.
Wow.
And even though I worked in this space, I never talked about my own divorces. And I got divorced the first time when my son was 2. Then I got remarried, and that divorce was really quick. And I didn't talk about it. And I had so much shame around my own divorce. And I was so embarrassed by my own divorce. And I just kept both parts of my world so separate. So my work life, I showed up in a certain way. I was a professional, as a lawyer. I was all buttoned up. And I didn't talk about my own journey. And one day, a good friend of mine who had a podcast said, "Hey, let me interview you." And so I'm like, sure. She's like, "I'll come over with some sushi and drinks and we'll just have fun." So we sat there, we had a couple drinks. She stuck the mic on me. And then she started asking me questions about my divorce. And I actually answered them for the first time ever. And after that, I had women reach out to me and say, "Thank you so much for sharing your story. I sat in the shame. I sat on the weekends I didn't have my child and cried." And that was the point that I realized that we have to be talking about this, that divorce is not the end. It is just a rewritten chapter. It's a plot twist, but we have to share our stories to normalize it and lift the stigma that this is this awful thing that's happening to us. It's a scarlet letter. And so much of my work is now blended with my personal life and my professional life. And I'm so passionate about helping women see that the divorce is just an opportunity to now carve out the life that they love, that they can create, and they can be who they want and show up in any way that they want. And it is not this defining moment in their life. It's just sort of a blip in our full, messy life that we have to live.
Right. I love that you say it that way because I think there is a lot of shame and guilt, and I've talked a lot on the show about it already. I think there's shame and guilt across the ages of women anyway with divorce, and I think there's almost a different kind of shame and guilt with older women. Do you find that, Renee? Do you find
Yeah.
that it's well, and I guess it's probably it's a different season in life. You don't have the younger children, and for me, it's more about what I see and the way I feel is that, at my age, wow, it feels like a failure, a big failure. And so I've had a lot of that to deal with, and I know a lot of my other colleagues and friends have. I also wanted to ask you, since you're an attorney, have you seen the percentages rise, or what's happened during COVID in the last year?
Yep, sorry, there was just a lag right there.
Yeah.
So the question was, have you seen the percentages rise?
Yeah, during COVID, the
Okay.
last year?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so they absolutely have, and the statistics have shown that the numbers are up. But what's really interesting is the numbers are up for newlyweds, and for people who are married less than 5 years, the increase there was a huge spike. So you can take what you want from that, but the numbers have definitely risen. But I think also it is keeping people stuck because some people have lost jobs, and there's uncertainty about bills and uncertainty about employment. And so there are people who are remaining in a toxic situation or even an abusive marriage because they don't know what their next move is going to be, because COVID has caused so much disruption in people's lives.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm actually surprised that it is people who have newlyweds and people who've been married not very long. Although I'm one of those statistics, I had been married less than 3 years. So I'm wondering if that is possibly centered around, this is the most pressure some of us have ever experienced. It's like a pressure cooker. There wasn't a lot, there wasn't ways to get out, to do things. Is that what you're finding? Do you think that's been a big cause?
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that there's money issues are always a stressor in any marriage.
Yes.
And so now if you're taking some exacerbated money issues and they're a younger couple, also spending so much time together. You have a lot of people working from home. I have friends who have really strong marriages, and they're both working from home and they're ready to kill each other. And so I think that when you have two people working from home, I think it puts an added stress on any relationship, as healthy as it can be. And so I think it's really interesting that the statistics are what they are for the younger marriages as well. And I think, maybe it highlights that we had such a disruptor. Like, it shook our lives up for this past year. And it's really an eye-opener as to, okay, what do I want in my life? What do I want to stay in something that I'm not happy? Like, what if things are just taken away like that? And I think a lot of people have really made some big, bold decisions about leaving jobs, starting businesses, leaving relationships. I think that this past year has really just shook people. And I think that the fallout of the high divorce rates is a result of that.
Right. Well, it does seem like for many of us, it's been the year of soul searching, of really looking deep at, like you said, what is it that we really want to do? And, as all these things are happening, what are the things that we've not been able to, that have always been on that bucket list? And, as you said, I do think it is causing another sector of women and men to stay possibly in relationships because there's so much fear of the unknown. And, what is it that saying, the devil you know is better than the one you don't know. So, I think it's an amazing time as far as, I think, us waking up, but it's also been incredibly difficult, for so many people. I know that you, I love all the content that you put out, and you're always encouraging. I'm 5 or 6 months into finding out, if you put on your divorce hat, your divorce attorney hat right now, what would you say is one of the most important things to know if it is more of a surprise, which it was in my case? I mean, I really didn't know. It just came, you know.
I think education is one of the most important things that early on someone has to really be proactive about, because when you have a divorce thrust upon you, what happens is you become so overwhelmed with emotion, overwhelmed with all of the proper steps you're supposed to take, overwhelmed with how do I find a lawyer, what's going to happen to everything that we have. And often from that overwhelm, people either don't move, they stay stuck and they're kind of like an ostrich and they don't do anything, or they give in to everything because they don't want to deal with it. And I think that you have to equip yourself with the tools in order to make decisions that are in your best interest. And in order to do that, you have to be educated about process, what you're entitled to, and you can't rely on an attorney to do that for you. So you hire an attorney and everyone thinks that an attorney is going to have your back and that's their job, but they don't live in your shoes. They don't know what your goals are unless you have a conversation with them about that, what your needs are, what your concerns are. They're not a therapist. And really taking ownership of your education about the divorce process will allow you to make decisions that are in your best interest. And then you can have those conversations with your lawyer and what does the law allow? What am I entitled to? And things like that. But just solely relying on your attorney to give you all of the information that you need is a mistake. And I think it's one that people make, because there are lots of attorneys out there who are not responsive or not providing you all of the information you need in a timely manner. And so you have to take some of that and say, okay, this thing happened to me. How do you remove the emotion from it? It's really hard to do, but it's critical to making a decision about how to divide assets. Is how do you remove the emotion, go to counseling, do what you need to do to work that out, and now look at your divorce like a business transaction and let that be the guiding factors in how you divide things. Because the minute you infuse emotion into what you want and how you want to make your soon to be ex pay, that's when divorces get really expensive. They get dragged out a really long time, and it keeps you embroiled in the conflict and in the chaos and in the emotion. And really the goal should be getting out so then you can heal. The longer you stay in that process, the longer it's going to take for you to come out the other side and really just spend the time on healing, because divorce can rock your world when you're in it. But the longer you stay in it, the more the conflict sticks to you, and the more it impacts how your emotional state.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, just from my personal standpoint. And you touched on something there, and I would love for our listeners and watchers to really get this if they're going through a divorce, and that is, when you go see an attorney, it is best if you can deal with your emotions before you get there. Yeah. So that you can use that time for the facts, right? Because, we all are so upset, and like you said, we're so overwhelmed, and we get to the attorney and, we're pouring out all this emotion, and we need to deal with that somewhere else, a therapist, a coach, even a best friend, a family member, because I think it does I would imagine it probably frustrates the attorney because they're trying to sift through, to get to the facts. And also, there was something that you said that on one of your posts, or you did a video about you don't want a judge telling you what your life will look like. Renee, when you did that with the piece of paper and oh my gosh. And for the listeners who don't know, please go to her Instagram page and check it out, because that was so powerful. I don't have young children, but I know that when you are in custody battles and those kind of things, the emotions are so high, and a judge really only looks at this much of really what's going on. I thought that was incredibly powerful. You might want to post that again. It was so...
It's funny because that video actually went viral on TikTok, and I'm not in the TikTok space much, but there were so many comments about it and people really angry about it because people want their full stories told, and when they go to trial, they're telling their emotional stories, and the emotions don't matter. It's evidence, and the judge is guided by rules of evidence. The attorneys are guided by rules of evidence, and all of the emotion doesn't have a place in there. So when someone goes to trial because of emotion, or they're trying to prove a point or make their spouse pay or arguing over principle, it's guaranteed to cost them a lot of money. And they'll probably walk out with a result that they're not happy with because they want the judge to punish the other person, and judges don't do that. It's not punitive. The judge has to carve up the estate and divide things based on what's fair, and emotion does not play into that at all. And people are really disappointed that they can't put everything out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's what I found. Even myself, I found myself in my emotions wanting to tell my story, or the blame game, or, they did this or whatever. And for most people to really know going in, it just slows the whole process down, and it really doesn't get you anywhere. And I would imagine as an attorney, it may not always play to the advantage of the person when they show up emotional, just wanting to tell that story so bad. Would you agree?
Yeah, and it's funny because you never know how the witness is going to be. You never know. You could have someone who you think is going to be so credible, and as attorneys, we assess that with our own clients, with witnesses, and when they get up on the stand, it's overwhelming, and everything that they prepped for falls apart, and they come across in a very different way. So it was something that I might think is credible or impactful, the judge may not. And so we have to remember the judge is a person that may have had a bad day, has their own biases. We don't like to say that, but judges do. And they're going to read a personality a certain way. So sometimes just telling your story is going to have the reverse effect. And you have to be careful, because if you're going into court just to tell your story or just to really make your spouse pay, you have to understand that the other side's doing the same thing about you. So it becomes very muddy. No one comes out of this completely clean. It's a muddy process, and a lot of times the lawyers are throwing things at the wall to see what's going to make an impact and what's going to stick. And in that process, especially if you have young kids, your co-parenting relationship will become practically non-existent, because there's going to be such a process of tearing the other person down through a trial. So it is always the last resort.
Right. I did learn that through a previous marriage, and there was a custody situation, and I was young and naive, and just, it just seemed all about a fight, and it went on for way too long, and I'm sure that it did damage to my child, and it took a lot out of me, and my ex as well. So, which is why I know we would, like for our listeners, and I'm sure that you spend a lot of time educating them, if they can get to the facts, if they can figure out, who gets what, and try to take their emotion to a therapist, work on that somewhere else. And of course, then there's the forgiveness. Because I know you say we do that for ourselves so that we can move on. I love everything you say about that. So what would you say about, because I know that you, in the podcast, you talk to so many experts, and you yourself have gone through it, for older women, what would you say about dating? When do you think is the right time? Or because it's a scary world re-entering anyway, but I think when you're older, it really is.
So I don't think that answer changes because of your age. The how long do you wait? Well, I think that that's so individual to what your situation is, because some people have been separated for a long time, and when the divorce is actually finalized, they've already gone through the healing process, and maybe they'll be ready right out of the gate. And other people will need time. I hear most people say between a year and 2 years. If their divorce has kind of been thrust upon them, it was really hard. It was not necessarily long or drawn out, but just really difficult emotionally for them, that they take some time to really understand themselves, to date themselves, to spend time with themselves, to do things that maybe you would do on a date, but you do it by yourself. Bring yourself out to a nice dinner. Bring yourself on vacation. Like, there's nothing more empowering than going on vacation by yourself and really getting comfortable being alone. And then when you are comfortable, then it's time to put yourself out there again and start dating, because now you don't need someone. You're not looking for someone to quick fix your emotions and put a Band-Aid over the loneliness. You're looking for someone because you're ready, and you're ready for a companion, but you're not going to settle. And you're going to have some non-negotiables, because being alone isn't afraid. You're not afraid of that anymore. And I interviewed a dating coach who said that you should treat dating like a carousel. You just kind of flip it by and keep going around, and just fun with it. Because if you're having fun, then you're not investing too much in one person or getting too deep so fast, and you're really just enjoying it until the carousel stops and you land on someone with, hey, I'd like to spend a more time with this person, and then more time. But just really have fun with it. And I don't think your age matters at all. I think that you can approach the dating world like a 20-year-old does, like a 30-year-old, a 40-year-old, and so on.
Yeah. I heard someone who was on your show, I believe your podcast. I'm sorry, I don't recall his name, but I think he was saying, like, a lot of people, which it makes sense maybe why things don't work out, that that because you're lonely, you start dating rather than seeking out friends. And that does sound like that could be a disaster if that's what you're looking for, and then you try to throw in the dating piece. I would think that would that could kind of blow up.
Yeah, so he was talking about a group that he actually started called Divorced Over 40. And it was specifically for
Renee, maybe I need to find out about this.
Well, he has chapters all over the country, and it's solely meant for connection. And dating is prohibited. You can't go there to pick up somebody. And it's really meant just for connection, to make new friends, and to be around people who are in a different season of life. It's different to get divorced when you're 30 than when you're 40 or 50. Just because, sometimes you lose friends during that process, because your friends don't know who to have an alliance with, and then they just fall away because it's uncomfortable for them, or they pick sides. So that was the whole purpose, was just spend time connecting with other people who have gone through this without actually dating. And I think he uses his own mistakes of dating too soon and how it didn't work, and he hadn't spent enough time just by himself.
Right. Well, that made so much sense to me, because you may take that loneliness that could be taken care of with friendships and doing things and finding yourself again. And a lot of people think, oh, well, I'm lonely, so I should date. So I think that's great, really, really great advice. Well, I know that we're ending up on our time here, and I'm curious, what do you think the most important thing for women in particular right now, say women over 50, that are experiencing divorce? What would you say is the most tip? I mean, I know there's a lot, but maybe the biggest tip or two?
I think it is reframe the conversation you're having with yourself about your divorce. And so what I have noticed from all of my clients over the years, that there are women who get stuck and there are women who thrive. And one of my favorite examples is this woman who I had represented, and she didn't want her divorce. Every step of the way she fought it. She would have stayed in that marriage, even though it wasn't a great one, but she would have stayed because it was comfortable. And even to the very end, she still did not want that divorce. And she had all of these concerns about how her bills would get paid because she wasn't the one who did it, or how the house would get taken care of because she wasn't the one who was responsible for that. And I had heard from her about a year after her divorce, and she emailed me to say, have never been happier than I am right now. And had I not been forced into a divorce that I didn't even know that I wanted or needed, I would have never really recognized how unhappy I was. And now she was living independently. She started dating again. And she was so, she was so appreciative of that thing that she went through that felt so horrible in the moment. And so that's what I tell people, no matter your age, when you're going through a divorce, is reframe the how you're thinking about what your divorce is. If the divorce is happening, chances are there's something probably not working in your marriage. And if you're being really honest with yourself and allowing yourself to have those thoughts, you'll recognize that. And so what if this is an opportunity? What if it's an opportunity to go and live a life of real happiness, of really connecting with a partner in a different way that you're not getting from this one? It can be a gift. Many people get stuck in something, and this is the time that they get to now have a redo and create a different life and have really have the opportunity to be who they want to be and rewrite their story.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I know you talk about rewriting your story a lot, and I think that's beautiful. And I just appreciate you so much and all the things you're doing for women. I mean, I see your post every day, and you're so encouraging, and you help me every day. So, like I said, I'm only 5 or 6 months in, but I couldn't do without checking you out and what you're presenting and showing people. So I know you've got your podcast, and you've got a course, and of course you're an attorney as well. So where can people find you?
Yeah, so Instagram is my favorite place to hang out. So I am there, and my handle is at Ms. Renée Bauer. But I also have a free giveaway for any of your listeners that is based on my belief that you can create a life that is beautiful. But you first have to believe it, and you have to believe you're worthy of it. So I have a guide about how to start doing that with some inner work that I would love to give your listeners. All they have to do is text the word believe to 411-321, and that guide will get sent to them. It's a beautiful start to really working on your values and your worthiness, and believing that you have a right to a happy life.
Wow. Thank you for that, Renee. And we'll be sure to put that in the program notes so everyone can look that up and get that gift and follow you and listen to all the wisdom that you're putting out there. Mm-hmm. So I thank you so much for coming on today. And maybe I'll have you back. I think I could talk another 30 minutes. So.
And you do have a beautiful studio, I have to say.
Well, thank you. Thank you to Pronk Studio. Yes, we love it here. They're a great group of producers. Well, Renee, thank you so much for coming on today, and I'm sure we'll be talking soon.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Deborah.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
This episode of The Golden's Guide to Divorce is proudly brought to you by Franny's Pharmacy of Greenville, a leading seed-to-shelf hemp and CBD brand. From tinctures to topicals and everything in between, Franny's Pharmacy Greenville is the most curated and thoughtfully stocked CBD dispensary in the Southeast. Whether you're shopping in-store or online, rest assured they only bring you the best of the best. Check out Franny'sPharmacyGreenville.com today and enjoy free shipping.
Hi, everyone. I'm back with that special portion of Golden's Guide to Divorce. And even though I don't have the beautiful golden toolbox here on the table today, I do have the golden tool for you, however. And the tool I have today is It's called Writing Yourself a Personal Love Letter. Now, don't roll your eyes, because you know how I feel about doing inner child work and how important I really feel that is. If you remember on one of the first episodes, I had the baby doll here, which is my way of really connecting into that tender part of me that is hurting and wounded and really needs attention. Well, this is another way. Maybe you don't want to get a baby doll. Maybe it's hard for you to speak to yourself that way, like there is an inner child. But what I have found is I've purchased a really beautiful journal, and I write so much in journals. I have stacks and stacks of composition notebooks, you know. But I think for writing yourself personal love letters, I think finding a journal that really speaks to your heart, that feels really special, is important for an exercise like this. My favorite pen, I love getting that out, my favorite pen. And as I'm doing this, I'm writing down things that, on the really, really bad days, that I can go back and read again. Sometimes it's affirmations, sometimes I'm just telling myself encouraging things like, I know I'm going to get through with the divine's help, or, I'm going to try to be grateful for even this day, even though it's hard. And then just recognizing, at the end of the day, sometimes just reminding myself, you've done it. You've got through another day. You did it. Even though your heart may be breaking, or even though you're going through challenges, you're doing it. You're still moving through. And I think that's really, really important. Always taking care of ourselves on the inside, always connecting in. That's something so big to me. I'll always be talking about it. So I also wanted to kind of end today with some final thoughts. And I'm also very curious. I'd love to know how you're experimenting with the tools that I'm suggesting, if they're helping, if you have your own tools. I would love to know. I'm always looking for new tools, because I think, helping ourselves get through these challenges is the way that we move faster, and we all want to do that. But my final thoughts for today were about unexpected support. And what I have discovered lately is it's been really challenging the last couple of weeks. I'm not kidding, on a lot of levels. I had a heart attack a few months ago, and, just some emotional stuff. It's been pretty tough. So I've been looking to find good things in different places, and it's amazing how small things help. Like, I was in PetSmart the other day, and I saw the sweetest golden that reminded me of one of my dogs that was like, she was just a soul dog to me, and I spent time with that puppy, and I talked to the owner, and it was just a really special, lovely conversation. And then doing things like, paying it forward, buying somebody's coffee in front of you, doing good things to take our mind off, where we are. And I'm sure that you would agree, most of us feel as if, we're the worst thing has happened to us, but, there's always somebody else maybe hurting more. And, this is a proven scientific fact that doing good things for others actually increases all the good endorphins and hormones in ourselves. And sometimes not just doing them, but just seeing them done, watching somebody else do a good deed. So, I think that's really powerful. I found myself speaking to strangers a lot lately, and that's not something that I've always done, and maybe taking it a little, looking in their eyes and making that connection. Because for me right now, I'm about to get emotional. For me right now, it's really needed. So with that said, I'm going to end up today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Can't wait for the next one. We're going to have a really special one on our next episode. And make sure and comment. Tell me what you like. Tell me about your tools. I'm really dying to know. And, we're getting stronger every day. No matter what you got going on, we're getting stronger every day. And, what I always say is that, I did wake up this morning and I said, okay, God, I'm still here. So with that, we'll see you next time. Thanks so much for joining me. Thank you, Pronk Studios. We love you. This is beautiful. I'm so proud and excited that I get to spend time with you. All right, next time.
I am here. After all my tears, I am here.